Hey, what up, Dodgers Nation? Doug McCain here. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. Should the Dodgers pursue a blockbuster trade with the Brewers for Willy Adames and Corbin Burns? Should they trade for Willy Adames? We're going to dive into that in just a second, but quick reminder for all latest Dodgers news and rumors all off-season long. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you want to see us post even more Dodgers content, smash that like button. And as always, I want your takes down below in the comment section. Today's Dodgers Nation question of the day. Would you want to see the Dodgers pursue a trade with the Brewers for Willy Adames and Corbin Burns, or just Willy Adames or Corbin Burns? I want your takes on those two players. Let me know down below. And for all latest Dodgers news, head over to DodgersNation.com. So with free agency fast approaching in Major League Baseball, there's a lot of buzz among Dodger fans about the big names that are going to be available. Names like Aaron Judge, Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts is going to opt out and be available, Dansby Swanson. But I think the Dodgers need to take a hard look at making some trades this offseason versus some big signings. And there are going to be some names that could be available. And today we're going to explore the idea of trading for Brewers shortstop Willy Adames and their ace Corbin Burns. So if you watched our shortstop of the future for the Dodgers video from this summer, we mentioned Willy Adames as a potential trade target for the Dodgers if they weren't able to re-sign Trey Turner or get any of these other free agent shortstop names available. And I do think it's a very interesting idea. The Athletics' Fabian Ardaya, he recently mentioned Adames as a potential trade target, and he's not the perfect shortstop, but he does bring a lot to the table. Now, first and foremost, let's look at his contract, because he still has 2 more years of arbitration left. He's expected to make $9.6 million for next season, and if you look at his home runs, he had 31 bombs last year. That was second among all shortstops. His 756 OPS was 8th. His 109 weighted runs created plus was 9th. And yes, he does strike out a lot. Make no mistake about that. He has a 26.9 K percentage. That's second among qualified shortstops. But I see a lot of Dodger fans out there that are interested in the possibility of signing Dansby Swanson. Well, Dansby Swanson is right behind Willy Adames with the third highest strikeout rate among shortstops at 26.1%. Now, defensively, they're both elite. Dansby Swanson, the best defensive shortstop in baseball last season. Willy Adames, he's definitely in the top 5. And if you look at the contract that Dansby Swanson is going to sign, it's going to be worth north of $100 million most likely. So you could trade for Willy Adames, have him under team control for 2 seasons without having to pay over $100 million. So I do like the idea of potentially trading for Willy Adames. And I also think that if you're going to make that deal, I think you inquire about the availability of their ace Corbin Burns. So Corbin Burns, he's a West Coast guy, born in Bakersfield, California, went to St. Mary's College, the same college as Tony Gonsolin, and I think he is the ace that the Dodgers need. If you look at his numbers last season, they definitely took a little step back from his Cy Young season in 2021, but he was still among the best pitchers in the game. His 2.94 ERA was 18th. His 3.05 expected ERA was 10th. His 3.14 FIP was 15th. His 2.91 Sierra was 6th. His 30.5% K percentage was 4th. And he's expected to make $12.7 million next season, and he's under 2 years of team control. So Corbin Burns is a very interesting name. And towards the end of the season, they asked Corbin Burns about potential extension talks and when they would start to pick up with Milwaukee. He told MLB.com, you would think maybe there would have been some initial talks last offseason, but nothing. He would go on to say, for anyone who isn't on a long-term deal, once you get into your later years of arbitration, anything can happen. We saw it with Hader. We might see it this offseason. I don't know what route the front office is going to take. It's one of those things you start looking at. You hope you're here for the long term. 2 more years, 7 more years, 8 more years, 10 more years, whatever it may be, you hope to be in one jersey your entire career. But there's other things that go into that. So what I take away from that comment is that he appears to be a little frustrated with the organization. And the Brewers are a team that they operate as a mid-market. They're not a team that goes out there and signs big-name free agents. They also trade guys once they start having to pay them. Just look at what they did with Josh Hader last season, they were dangling him in trade talks for years. So I definitely think the Brewers, at the very least, they're going to answer Andrew Friedman's call if he inquires about Corbin Burnes and Willy Adames and just takes the temperature and see what it would cost to bring those two guys to LA. Now, what would LA have to include? Well, you're absolutely going to have to give up some big name prospects. You might have to include some big league talent. I think there are some guys on this Dodgers roster that you could sell high. And before we get into some of those names, I just want to say, look, the time is now for the Dodgers. You have to start pulling money from that 401k right now and cash in. You can't worry about 5-10 years down the line. It's about today, not tomorrow for the Dodgers, because why else would you have signed Freddie Freeman at 32? Why else would you have signed Mookie Betts when you did at the age of 28? You want to take advantage of their primes because, look, it's about winning the World Series. You have to win multiple World Series titles when you consider the resources that this organization has. And look, the reality is, yes, they have been one of the best run organizations over the last decade, but I can tell you firsthand from speaking to the owner of the Dodgers, they're not happy with just one World Series. They want to win multiple titles, and I think one way you do that is you trade away some pieces to get some win-now guys. And Corbin Burnes, I think he absolutely would be a fantastic ace for this team. He's a power-throwing righty. He has some of the best spin rates in the league. He misses bats. He gets big punch-outs. His style of pitching plays up in the postseason. And also, you consider the fact that Walker Buehler won't be available for the 2023 season. It's unlikely he'll be available for the 2023 postseason, and you also just need another ace-level pitcher. Now, Willy Adames is very interesting because he's a guy who defensively, he's top 5. Yes, the Dodgers could slide Gavin Lux to that shortstop spot, but he's unproven at that position defensively. Yes, they could re-sign Trey Turner, and I'm sure they'll explore that idea. When it comes to Carlos Correa, I can guarantee you the Dodgers aren't going to sign Carlos Correa to a $330+ million contract. That just does not make sense, and I think that everyone has this idea of the Dodgers, this perception that they go out there and they sign whoever they want. That's just not the case. Look, last offseason, Freddie Freeman fell into their lap. Freddie Freeman signed with the Dodgers because the Braves didn't meet his asking price. If Atlanta was smart and they offered him the $162 million deal, he'd still be with the Braves. They didn't overpay for Max Scherzer. They offered him $72 million when the Mets offered him $130 million. They didn't overpay for Corey Seager. They offered him $290 million when the Rangers offered him $325 million. So it's not like they're just sliding over these blank checks to these players. They are still being smart with their signings, and I think when you consider the fact that they do have to shed some names off this 40-man roster, you can't keep everyone. You have to start pruning that roster. I think this is the offseason where if the Dodgers want to make significant upgrades, they do it through the trade market versus going out there and signing some of these big risky names. Guys like Jacob deGrom, who, yes, he's an ace. Yes, he would look great in Dodger blue, but do you want to give him $100+ million considering his injury history, considering his age? Carlos Rodon is another guy that I would like to see in Dodger blue as well, but I would much rather see Corbin Burnes 2 years in his prime in Dodger blue. And yes, the Dodgers would have to give some big assets, and I think you would see some names being dangled. The Bobby Millers, maybe even Gavin Lux, who's from Kenosha, Wisconsin. I think that would make a lot of sense for the Brewers. Tony Gonsolin is a guy who made his first All-Star team, also went to St. Mary's like Corbin Burnes. I think you could sell him high, although I wish he had a better start in the postseason. He'd make it a more attractive trade asset for another team. And then there's some up-and-comers, too. You got the Michael Bushes, you got the Andy Pajes. The Dodgers have a deep and rich farm system with a lot of prospects out there that other teams would like. Now, I'm going to do a part 2 of this video where I give you specific trade packages, but just imagine a rotation next year where you have Julio Urias, Corbin Burnes, Clayton Kershaw re-signs around $20 to $25 million on a 1-year contract. Tyler Anderson takes the qualifying offer, signs a multi-year deal. Dustin May is back. So I think next year the rotation has the potential to be one of the best that we've seen in recent years. So yeah, I definitely love the idea of trading for Corbin Burnes. Willy Adames, I'm here for it as well, especially when you consider the fact that the shortstop position, it tends to be fickle. It tends to be a position where, let's say you go throw a lot of money at a 6'4" Carlos Correa. What have I been telling you for years now? That he's not going to be playing that position deep into his 30s. 30s, so he's really going to slide over to third base, and he's not even a better offensive player than Manny Machado, who signed for $300 million. So I don't hate the idea of Carlos Correa for over $300 million. I could talk myself into maybe that high AAV shorter-term deal, but even then, I still wouldn't be all in on that move. But let me know down below in the comments section. Do you like the idea of trading for Willy Adames and Corbin Burnes, or one of those players separately? Want to get your takes on those two players, but I'm going to drop another video later in the week with some specific trade packages for those two guys. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. For all latest Dodgers news and rumors all off-season long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you want to see us post even more Dodgers content, smash that like button. And as always, think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.